What's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning back into the video. I'm gonna do this backwards. I've got the Sporty pretty much ready to rock here. So I'm gonna rewind the tape and show you guys kind of how I got to this point. And then we will fast forward back up to this guy here. So stay tuned, watch what's coming, and we'll see you guys in just a minute. Alright, so putting the shocks together here for the Sporty. I'm not going to do a tutorial on how to bleed a Dlux shock. I think there's about 50 of them on YouTube right now. But one thing that I noticed that no one really talks about is actually exposed shock length, or internal limiters or external limiters, and what exactly that's accomplishing. So when you order your Dlux shocks, they come with these little O-rings here, and the O-rings can go on the bottom or they can go on the top of your shock spring, and that's to increase dampening pressure at right height. But another tool that most guys use is we're going to limit either the exposed shock shaft, or we're going to limit the up travel. So in order to do to eliminate or shorten the exposed shock shaft, you would simply pull the shaft out of the shock body, add some washers. You can use aluminum, plastic, O-rings, whatever you suffice to use, and then you would reinstall that shock shaft. And what you're essentially doing is you're limiting the amount of shock shaft that goes on the outside. If you're trying to decrease up travel, since we don't have bump stops, you would essentially put something on the shock shaft. I don't know if we can zoom in here and see this, but I have an O-ring here. This is actually a low C X-ring, a TLR. You can actually also use these X-rings inside the Dlux shock body. I didn't do it on this set. I went ahead and ordered these pre-assembled. What I've noticed about the Dlux shocks, including the ones that were installed by Dlux, is when they sit fully extended, they almost lock out a little bit until you initially use them. So on my other rig that I have, I'll actually kind of just manipulate the suspension before I throw it out on the rocks. But I noticed that when I pull it off the shelf, it tends to stick a little bit. So on the second set that I built, I went ahead and used those low C rings inside it, and it did make the shock more smooth. I only have one package here, and unfortunately that's not enough to do all four, so I'm gonna go with it. But I wanted to note that I just put that little dampener in there so that when the shock is fully compressed, it does just have a little bit of a dampening to it. But when we're doing these preloads and you're screwing on the rod in, if you really want to get nerdy with the specs of your car and the consistencies from the front to the back, or when you're comparing setup sheets, you'll notice that when you order the smaller shock bodies, they come with a short rod end. And then when you order the standard 90s, they come with a different rod end. So I created a setup sheet. It might be on the description of this video, I don't know yet, but it will be available on the Facebook page, Pro RC Crawler. But allows you to kind of put those details in. And then another thing that's really important is when you're threading on this rod end, I don't know how I'm going to do this and video it with the spring on there. When you thread the rod end on, you can over tighten it or under tighten it, and that is going to change the overall length of the shock itself. So if you have one that's completely tight and it's past one or two threads, and then one that's loose, your left side and your right side can actually differ in height. So it's pretty, I suggest we do this in the off-road world, and again it's going to be on that setup sheet, is exposed shock shaft. And what that is going to be from the bottom of the shock body to the top of the rod end. So if you measure this one and then you go and do your second one, you're going to want to match those dimensions, and then you're going to know that your shock left to right is equal. In this particular case, on the Lunatic chassis, it uses a shorter shock body in the front than it does in the back, so we're not going to be comparing all 4 corners, but we are just going to compare left to right. So is it going to affect how your car runs on the rocks? Are you going to notice it? Probably not. But there's one thing that I learned from on-road and off-road racing is once you got familiar with how your car worked, you could do the smallest change. You could put a 1mm shim underneath the tie rod in and you could notice the difference. Or you could put a different Ackerman arm on that was a 1/2 degree difference and you could feel the difference when you were on the track. So in my opinion, ensuring that your shock on the left side is the same length as the right side, and then using that same rule of thumb for your links, your upper links, your lower links, making sure that everything's the same length, that your rod ends are identically screwed on. It's going to give you a more consistent feel out of your crawler, and just be a better build. And then honestly, having a little bit of OCD is just going to fix that as well. But I haven't heard of really anyone showing the calipers. They just show you how to bleed the shock, throw it together, and then on the way we go. So I just wanted to mention that. This set I'm doing 30 weight oil all the way around, and that's just something I'm experimenting with because it gets so hot here that 30 gets real thin real quick. So that's something to consider. Or if you're crawling during the winter, same deal, your 30 is actually going to thicken up a little bit. So those are all things to consider down the road. But for this one, all 4, I'm going to put in this little O-ring on top here just for the dampening. I made sure that my rebrown was almost as consistent as possible so that my eye-to-eye measurement is coming out identical left to right as well. So again, just little important things we wanted to hit on for this video, and we'll keep rolling on to the next step here. We got 2 more to do, and we'll go from there. You guys ever order parts and you finally get to go put them in your car and find out you're missing stuff? So frustrating. I know these guys are a small company and I've done exactly what they do, and we all make mistakes, but man, I'm getting my butt kicked on the Sporty. So I didn't order the kit, the Lunatic kit, because I already had the transmission. So what I did was I ordered the chassis, and then I ordered the front and rear axles. I ordered the front and the rear just as it was supposed to be, and when it showed up, I got the wrong diff for the front. So I could only install the rear axle, and I had to wait 4 days, I think, for the correct differential to show up for me to get that assembled. So I have a pretty crazy work schedule. And I have a 2-year-old that absolutely loves to be in the office with me and wrench on my cars, so I tend to do a lot of my videos while he's sleeping. Right now looks like it's his 12:30 nap. He's out there sleeping on the couch, so I figured I'd go ahead and get these shocks done, do this video. That way he's not messing up my shock oil, spilling all this over my table. But took everything apart, unscrewed the caps, put them just like this here. Just did the rear axles, just did the explanation on showing you the calipers, measuring the length. I got to put the first cap on the front shock, and it doesn't have a bladder in it. So yeah, no bladder means I can't finish it. However, good news is I have a set of shocks here waiting for my Super. So now I'm going to bust into that package and grab a set of O-rings. But just a little bit upsetting, if you will. Yeah. Limited time, just want to get this car done. Super bummer, but it is what it is. I got the right parts. Go ahead and get this fixed. Just wanted to see if some of you guys relate to getting all excited to find out you're missing the 3-cent O-ring to get this thing done. So we'll get it hammered out here and keep on going to bolting them on. You guys ever had this Big Red? It's pretty dang good. So, haven't seen it in Oregon before. Now we're in Arizona, we got it. Try it out. So, I got my 4 shocks together. Sweet, those are good. I went to the last comp and I noticed that Mr. Dave Cape, he had a cool little battery mount for the front axle from Dlux, and it was this guy right here. So I ordered one up thinking it was just this, and when it showed up I got servo mounts and I got this front axle truss. Remember I was telling you that I had to grind it down? Well, apparently if you order this you don't have to do any of that. So did not know. To be honest, I didn't read the description of the front axle to see if it was like an add-on. I didn't look on their site very hard, but this is pretty sweet. So before I put the shocks on, I'm going to take apart the front axle and try to get that all fixed up here. I need a 2 mil. I don't know where my little nut driver's at. So we're gonna buzz all this off real quick. Probably gonna have to get my Loctite. And the servo mounts are different, so looks like they're not as offset, so they're pushing the servo farther back. Another little thing is handy. If you guys got a Harbor Freight, these little rubber bends from Harbor Freight, awesome. So, big Harbor Freight guy. Okay, not really, but I'm not gonna lie, Harbor Freight's gotten pretty cool. Pull all these guys off. I guess we'll simple the whole axle. Doing all this by hand. Forgot I got this little speed driver. You guys can find these on Amazon for like 20 bucks. Little speed driver, speed bit. Normally I don't use them because as soon as my son hears it, he comes running because he loves this thing. So, but I think he's still sleeping. So we're gonna make quick work of all this. Put the drive shaft off, and let's see if I can keep my bench clean, huh? We'll hang this back up. Added a panel to my wall yesterday, thanks to IKEA. These panels are $27. There's 2 holes in the wall, that's it. Pretty darn cool, actually. Sure, this thing's super loud on the video, so you're welcome. So still waiting on my super chassis. I ordered my Holmes motors yesterday, so those are going to be coming soon. And trying to decide if I build a mini still. Got to drive Dave's the last comp, and it was actually pretty darn fun. I enjoyed it quite a bit, so. Alright, now let's see what we got shaking here. So the top plate does have an extra hole. So we got a hole here, there's not a hole there. And that's obviously, looks like it goes here. So we do need to swap all this out, it looks like. Hardware back. This is all making a little bit more sense. And this guy needs to come off. Bada bing, bada boom. It's a pretty complex little print here. That driver's not long enough. See? I don't know, you would just think that if you ordered the servo plate, it would come with the hardware, but I guess not. So let's see. I guess that is long enough, so that's good. Look at that, I got a nice little groove here for your Allen to go in. So pretty good thinking there. Nice job, guys. All right, so now we'll do the servo mount here. Old stuff, just for comparison's sake. You'll see that this has got a 45, and I cut that off because I didn't know any better. So, sweet. So this is gonna go in just like that. I need these screws. Whew. Early. Okay, now I gotta find my Loctite, so I'll be right back. Try really hard to be organized. And then I work on something and I just blow it apart and then I can never find anything. I think that's just being a guy, but still like frustrates the heck out of me. Okay, so this actually goes like this. And like this. So I haven't found my glue stick Loctite. Really need to order that. It's just a cleaner in general. If you guys are wondering why I hold screwdrivers weird, I'm left-handed and right-handed. Just depends on what I'm doing. You'll probably notice I switch back and forth quite a bit. This driver is cool because you can get the screw started and then you can give her a little torque twist and get things locked in pretty good. Alright, so now I don't know if you guys can see the difference here, how the offset is quite a bit different. So change these out now.
looks like. These go backwards. Probably just get them snug to start.
Well, we opened up a can of worms getting this put on. So when this was screwed onto the axle, it wouldn't allow me to screw the chassis brace over it. The axle brace. It was hitting. So I even grabbed longer screws and tried to suck it down. You know, when I did that, I stripped the center hole out of the axle tube. So that's awesome. So I took it back, I dremeled these ears to get them a little bit shorter, and then I cut the servo shape out. So you'll see now the servo opening is bigger. However, this little notch out for the servo ears is hitting, so it doesn't allow it to go fully up against it. I don't know if you guys can see that gap in here, but there's a gap. But if I cut too much of this off, I fear that it's not going to go back together. So I'm going to go back with my original design and just put a shim in there and just shim it out, and it is what it is. So it's close. It'd probably take me way too long to redraw all this, and I don't want to. Sucks that that screw is stripped, but at the end of the day, it's still got 4 plus the 2 down the side. It is what it is. So I'll put it all back together, and then we'll go from there.
Shift servo in. Got it all mocked up. Hi, buddy. Hi. Can you just wake up from your nap? Yeah. With a dart. You have a good nap? You have a good nap? That's so good. Turn the servo in.
Quiet walk. Quiet walk.
Yeah. Daddy's making a video. Isn't that cool? So right now, as it sits, with these offset, the servo horn actually is hitting the chassis brace there. I think. Looks like it's just barely touching the button head. So we'll have to look into that a little bit. Maybe just throw a washer. Yeah, maybe just throw a washer in there. Feels like it's just barely touching. See that? What do you think? Is that cool? And then, so the servo cutout, see the servo is longer than the cutout. So with that, there's a gap. I don't know if you can see that on there. There's a gap right here. So I either need to cut it out larger for the servo or throw some spacers in there. And honestly, I just might throw some spacers in there. So we'll play with that off camera now the little guy's awake, and then I guess we'll go from there. So see you guys soon. All right. I have a roller, slider, whatever we call these things these days. So a couple things. If you remember one of my first videos, I mentioned that the hardware that held on the front truss was too long and it was hitting the drive shafts. So I went ahead and tried that hardware. For whatever reason, with this new truss, it does not hit the CVDs anymore. So we're good there. So I got the truss all installed, got the servo installed. As you guys know, if you've built any cheater rig or full comp sporty, clearances are very, very tight. So both of the shocks on, front and rear. Couple things that I've noticed with this 2200 Stumpy, the battery mount here, see if we can, it's really close to hitting. So at full bump, it is actually hitting the motor, which is limiting the up travel. So I gotta look at that. I think if I shave it, we unfortunately lose I think the strength of the battery strap, but maybe not much. I might be able to just notch it to clear the motor there. So still trying to figure that out. I don't think we need all of the up travel. I'm just looking at some fitment here. It's almost like I have it, something about it's cockeyed, like the link mount on this passenger side is hitting the shock body, but it's not even close on this side. Just need to double check my measurements there and make sure I got the right links, but I'm positive I did. Gotta check the tie rod, it's a little bit too long. But either way, we gotta figure out where the electronics are gonna go. I think I'm gonna try to put all the electronics here on this top plate. First, I'm just gonna connect everything, get it to work, and then I'm gonna do a video on shortening all the wires and making a really crazy compact package. But yeah, we're getting there. Now I can finally hang it without the drive shafts falling off. I got it. The wheels are here, tires are on the way, foams are here. So we're close, very close. So this is literally all the electronics required. You see all the excess wire that comes with everything. Obviously it's universal, but you've got these long pigtails, you got the speed control, the BEC, and then this little teeny micro, how small this is, micro receiver. I'm actually gonna pound all this together here. I'm gonna shorten up all these wires, and we're gonna reheat shrink these 3 packages on here. Don't know how well I'm gonna be able to document this. I might just do it and show you guys the aftermath. Sorry for my kid back there. But yeah, we're gonna try to smash this all up. All right, so we are gonna work on cleaning up the wires here. Everything you see here is how the wires come. You know, they're universal length, but I want this whole package super tight. So the servo, the front axle comes with this carbon fiber plate here, and I'm going to try to mount everything on the plate or on top of the servo, so that if I need to remove everything, the easiest way possible would be to take this plate off. I am going to have to cut the motor leads, which means if I need to disconnect the motor, I'm going to have to either unsolder or unbolt from the transmission. But the whole point of this vehicle is competition, right? So we want to just reduce the mess. Some guys will zip tie this all up, ball it all up. I'm not willing to do that. So I'm going to start by temporarily sticking the speed control down here, and then I'm going to shorten up the motor wires, and then I'll move on to the next step. I'm not going to film the entire process on this one, but if you guys want to see the entire process done, leave a comment below, and I will make sure to do a second video on my next build on a true step-by-step video process. Okay, I got the motor wires shortened up here. We'll do some fixing here once I get everything set. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to get the BEC, I'm going to put it down here. I'm actually going to heat shrink it all in one little package on the side there, and then I'll shorten the power and ground leads. And then at that time I actually might stack the receiver on top and heat shrink all that into one shot real quick. Okay, so I couldn't find my crimpers for my servos and what have you, so I bought this kit on Amazon. I'll go ahead and give a link to that here soon. So I got everything shortened up. Kind of hard to do this one-handed, but you see how much short everything is. I'm gonna put this all in a heat shrink tube and then it'll be much cleaner. Okay, so I got the heat shrink on. And that is our whole package. All ready to go. I did verify everything turns on and works as it should. Here's all the scrap wire that's left over. Now I want to set this flush, but this screw is a button head. So now I'm going to countersink it real quick so that we can stick this guy on there just like so. If you don't have one of these little countersink bits, they're awesome. So got that guy all countersunk. Now I can get everything stuck down here. All right, so that is our nice little electronics package. Got the battery in there. Curious from the side profile how low that is. I mean, it's about as low as the servo horn. For some perspective there. Super nice and clean. All right, we got a roller. Finally, I'm pretty darn excited to get this thing rolling, honestly. We got the electronics all finished up here, all nice and tight, double-sided tape to the front axle. I've got the stainless sliders added. I think these come when I bought the links, can't remember. They are an additional charge, but super nice. You just glue them on there, gives you a nice smooth transition. Body mounts are dope, super low profile. 3D printed, and then they have a nut that goes on the top. So just two really small holes in the body. So I got the body mounted. This is a Traxxas 16 scale E-Revo body. It's an Illusion body. It's not technically WRCCA legal. So I heated it up with a heat gun, took my little kid's soccer ball, and once you get this all nice and soft, you just press the body over it, and that gets you the height that you need. Hopefully you can see that in the video. Still need to paint this guy. There's a comp on Sunday down south. I'm gonna do my damnedest to get this thing painted this week, and I think I'm gonna use these wheels. I did not know this, but Dlux makes a lower steering arm for their knuckles that's heavier brass. So I ordered some of those. Hopefully they'll be here in time. I think they will be. And then I don't know if you can see it in here. There's some tungsten slugs. What I did is I drew up these little 3D printed hangers, and then the press fit slugs that go on there. So these will work with any wheel that has a 2.2 inch inner diameter. This is just me being cheap. I had the tungsten, wanted some holders. I did post these on the Facebook page. If you guys aren't on there, feel free to add me. Sounded like several of you wanted these. I'm just gonna sell them for 10 bucks. That's basically just to cover my time and materials. But yeah, they're available there if you want them. So everything's ready to go. Bound it up to the radio, pretty much solid. I need to cut and narrow the tires still. I'm also doing the Power Hobby grabbers on this guy as well, with the standard dual stage Crawler Innovations foams. I've got the new steering link back from Dlux. This is the correct one. The other one was a little bit too long, so they got me dialed there. So paint, wheels, tires, and we're ready to rock. So that pretty much sums up this build. I'm really excited to get it all scratched up because it's never gonna look this good again. Now that I have it on side, reminder, so the motor actually hits their 3D printed lipo mount. I did a ton of dremling here to the back side of it, but it still isn't enough. So before I go, I need to really hack it up and see if it clears. My fear is that whole back wall is just gonna have to be eliminated. So not a big deal, we'll figure that one out. Just hack it up with a Dremel. We have Nationals coming up in October, which according to the calendar is really not that far away when you throw work trips into all that. So I got my super chassis So this is going to be next on the docket for the YouTube videos. So I should have everything here, and I got the motors, chassis links, shocks, wheels. I got to make the tires. That'll be a fun one. The tires may be a video in itself. We'll see. But yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this short and sweet video. Please do me a favor and like and subscribe. Almost at 500, so excuse me, got hiccups. We're getting there, so pretty stoked on that. Looking forward to getting this thing out on the rocks this weekend. And thanks for watching. And as always, I'll see you guys out on the rocks.